Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the Yankees continue to be the king of the sweeps, sweeping their third series of the road, taking 3-3 against the Kansas City Royals. We'll get into all that. The Yankees are, at least 22 games in, the best team in baseball record-wise. The hottest team in baseball, taking 11 of the last 12 games. If they could have won that last game in Detroit, it would have been 4 sweeps in a row. But anyway, Yankees are rolling right now, firing all cylinders. So we'll get into that, get into the Baltimore series, get into the Kansas City series. We'll check in on our old friend Robbie Cano, don't you know? And then a little unsealed letter from Rob Manfred to GM Brian Cashman was leaked out. A little embarrassing for the Yankees. We'll let you know what was in it. What's it really about? Give you a little hint. It's really a nothing burger. But we got all that coming up. But before we get into that, if you haven't done it yet, remember this show is now available via podcast. So go to wherever you get your podcast, Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast, and you get additional content that is not available on YouTube, not available on television. If you have to be in the Bronx and Brooklyn or Long Island watching on public access TV, you get exclusive audio content. You don't have to wait an entire week to see me. You could get my voice, maybe every couple of days, which is very exciting. And again, you could be on the treadmill at the gym. You could be maybe riding the subway and you just need something to listen to, or you just want to tune somebody out. Again, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Go there, subscribe now. So when we last left off, you remember we had the sweep of the Cleveland Guardians at home, of course, but really the headline was that beer throwing incident, involving the bleachy creatures in right field, dumping some beers after the, Gleyber Torres' game-winning hit. So the Yankees after that, stayed at home and kind of set the scene a little bit. I mean, that weekend actually weather-wise was, pretty good in New York. Unfortunately, maybe, someone just flipped the switch because then right after that, it kind of got very, very chilly, very windy. It's kind of almost a fall day, not really a spring day. And of course, the old friend Baltimore Orioles came to town, and it was time for the Yankees to really, pay them back. Again, the Yankees went down there early, lost 2 out of 3 against a sub 500 team they would have no business of losing to. And the Yankees paid them back big by sweeping them. Now, in the first game, it was the Anthony Rizzo show. And again, remember last episode, I kind of did the comparison, at least to this point of the season, versus Matt Olson and Anthony Rizzo. I was kind of patting myself on the back a little bit. Well, I patted myself on the back even harder because in that opening first game, Rizzo hits not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs, as well as some other joining the home run parade by other Yankees, such as Aaron Judge. Hit a home run for his 30th birthday. And as you might have saw afterwards, I guess him and his buddies went into some photo booth and took some silly pictures. So Judge had himself a great day. And he even got the first home run of the season by Joey Gallo, which, we've been waiting for a while. It kind of gets him off the schneid a little bit. And funny enough, when he came back into the dugout, the Yankees kind of gave him the silent treatment, which usually do that to a rookie player when he hits his first home run. And he goes in, he's all excited, and all the veterans kind of to stay away. And he's like, wait, what's wrong? And then they all jump at him. They kind of did that to Gallo. I'm sure he's pressing at the plate, and they know about it. So good to see him get off the schneid. So on the mound for the Yankees was Luis Severino. And, you thought it might be a special night. Even took a no-hitter into the 6th inning, but kind of lost it a little bit. I mean, the Yankees kind of staked them to a big lead, so it wasn't like it was a pressure situation. And the Yankee bullpen themselves wasn't that good. Loizaga wasn't effective. Lutke got smacked around a little bit. And by the 9th inning, the Yankees were ahead 12-8. And it was a situation like where you figured, they were threatening or like that. But I guess, Boone didn't want to play around a little bit, so he actually brought Chapman out, even though it was a non-safe situation. Just to bring Chapman out, it's like, hey, let's just put a stop to this. We don't blow this game, at this point. And Chapman was able to close it out, and the Yankees do take the first game. Now, for the second game, same thing, a very windy night, very chilly night. And unfortunately, the offense really, from the first game, really didn't carry over too much. And Montgomery was on the mound, so you know what happens when Montgomery's on the mound. I mean, the Yankees don't score many runs, but they changed the script a little bit. So in the first inning, Stanton stakes Monty to a 2-0 lead, which is a shocker with a 2-run home run. But Montgomery himself isn't able to keep it. In the 6th inning, serves up a 2-run home run of his own to Santander. 2-2 game, but Stanton, I guess he was the hero of the night, hits a sacrifice fly in the latter part of that inning. Yankees take a 3-2 lead. Gallo would hit his second home run on consecutive nights, so Gallo get it going with the bat a little bit, so fans will give him a break a little bit. The Yankees will build a 5-2 lead. Now Chapman had pitched the game before, even though it was in a non-safe situation, and was utilized during the Cleveland Guardians series a couple times. So I guess Boone wanted to give him a night off, so actually brings out Clay Holmes, who he's been great with the Yankees since Cashman picked him up last season with the Pirates. Guy's got ice in his veins, and then he gets out of every jam, every situation, doesn't flounder. So I no reason to believe that he would have any issue closing the game out, and he didn't. And the Yankees took the second game 5-2, and now you whet your appetite a little bit. It's like, hey, we had a sweep of the Guardians. It'd be nice to get another sweep in a row. And so that brought us to an afternoon Thursday matinee game at 1 o'clock. Now, I guess because, it was a day game after night game and it was a travel game. So right after that Thursday afternoon game, the Yankees were going to travel to Kansas City. And I guess with that, Boone figured, maybe, give a few guys a night off. So it kind of went out with the B lineup, I would say. I mean, you had Tim LeCastro out in center field versus Hicks. You had Marwin Gonzalez out there in the starting lineup as well. So it wasn't exactly the A Yankee lineup. And the Yankees fell behind early. Tyone was on the mound, but did fall behind, unfortunately, at 2-0. But the Yankees would eventually get on the board with a 4-run inning in the 5th inning. And it all started by that guy, Tim LeCastro, who's been very valuable for the Yankees as a bench player, as a pinch runner, playing some good defense. Now in this game, he got to start, and he got on base by an error. And, he's a speedy guy. Now Gonzalez came up after him, hit a double, and the speedy LeCastro was able to score from first to home. And again, with the New York Yankees lately, when do you ever see that type of speed from this team? I mean, they're very usually lumbering. You kind of station to station, kind of always waiting for the home run. It's just kind of refreshing to see someone like LeCastro score from first to home. And again, the Yankees would score 4 runs in that inning, and it would just keep adding on, even to the point where later on in the 8th inning, Aaron Judge hit a 3-run home run to put the Yankees up to 10-2. So at the point, the Yankees are clearly in the driver's seat. Now, Baltimore did chip away a little bit. It was never a situation where you thought the Yankees were in trouble. Did score 3 runs in the 8th to tie it to bring it closer to 10-5. Again, never and they did threaten a little bit in the 9th, but never a situation where you thought the game was going to lose the game. But just kind of annoying, like a gnat, kind of like a horse fly at the beach. You want to slap, like, go away. And then Lucky is able to close it out, and the Yankees come away with the win 10-5, and again sweep the 2nd series in a row, and again kind of stick it to Baltimore and do what you're supposed to do to Baltimore. I mean, those should be easy wins. You're going to be facing them again 17, 18 times this season. You should really, pretty much win almost all those games. Those are easy wins for the Yankees. And again, that's part of the reason why they didn't get the AL East last season, because they actually struggled against Baltimore. So it looks like maybe they turned that around a little bit, where now they're going to start dominating that team. And if that's the case, then moving forward for the Yankees, that's very good news. So after sweeping the Orioles, the Yankees took the show on the road, went out to Kansas City. Now, again, it was kind of windy in New York and in Kansas City. Same story, but obviously out there it's Tornado Valley. And if you look, areas of Kansas, Missouri, a lot of tornado warnings and bad kind of weather. So kind of questionable whether the Yankees, would be able to get all these games in. Luckily they did, and luckily they would end up sweeping them. So the opening game was, Nestor Cortez on the mound, who's just probably, been the Yankees' best and most consistent pitcher. But of course, the Anthony Rizzo show also continued in the 1st inning, got on the board right away with a 2-run home run. So again, Rizzo very hot with the bat to start the season, and then followed up with that was a Stantonian home run to give the Yankees and Nestor Cortez an early 3-0 lead. And that's all he would need. He pretty much breezed through 5 innings, gave up 1 earned run on his own, and the Yankees offense really clicked in later on. Racked up, by a Judge blast in the 7th. Even Gleyber Torres, who's kind of been struggling a little bit at the bat, hit a home run on his own, and you even got a bases clearing triple by Higgy to give the Yankees built up a 12-2 lead. And for the Yankees, you took twice in the Baltimore series, scoring 10 or more runs, and now on the opening game, scoring 12 runs. So, that offense is really getting it going. And for the Yankee bullpen, some bright spots there. Chad Green and Jonathan Loáisiga, very effective. They were a little sloppy, I would say, during the Orioles series. So it was just good to see them have a couple of clean innings. And again, the first game, a laughter for Nestor, and the Yankees come away with a 12-2 win. Now, probably the most intriguing of the 3 games, at least going into it, was going to be the second game with Garrett Cole, because finally delivered an ace-like performance against the Cleveland Guardians. And now you're kind of wondering, all right, is that the real Cole? Was that a fluke? So you kind of want to see him back that up with another strong performance, and he did do that, going 6 innings of shutout baseball. So, for all the people worried about Cole in the beginning of the season and say, hey, without the spider attack, he's nothing. He's not a real ace, and the Yankees spending all this money on him. What are you going to do? He's on the contract for the next 8 or 9 years. Well, I guess some of those anxieties now calm now with 2 strong performances in a row. Again, went 6 innings. So if you take the 6 2/3 innings against the Cleveland Guardians in the previous start, and plus now the 6 innings of this start, that's 12 2/3 innings of shutout baseball, and is looking much more dominant, much more confident on the mound, attacking the strike zone. The body language is different. So whatever kind of doldrums he was having early on, seems like he's putting that aside. And again, that's good news for the Yankees, because again, without Garrett Cole, as the ace and having confidence in him. This team, even though things are going well for them, they got no shot later on. They need Cole to be Cole, and looks like finally he's discovered himself for 2022. The Yankee offense for the second game, not really a vintage type of Yankee game. A couple of sacrifice fly, a sacrifice grounder, gave Cole a 3-0 lead, and that's all he would need. Again, Kansas City, again, similar to the Orioles, coming into the series, a sub 500 team, so it's a team that you figure should handle. They have some issues of their own. Didn't really get anything on the board for them. No scoring. Chapman comes out ninth inning, clean save, and then the Yankees take the first two. And now, again, similar, you kind of wet your appetite. Hey, can we get our third sweep in a row? And that would be tremendous. That's not something you'll see too often. And now, the last game, I would say, the third game, I'll put it as the second best win of the season so far. The first best win, of course, was the Saturday Cleveland Guardian game where the Yankees scored 2 in the ninth to come back and win that game. Of course, unfortunately, that's where the Bears went flying. But the win itself was probably the Yankees' best win of the season. I'll put this one at the second best win of the season. I'll get into that in a second. So the Yankees got on the board early on with Aaron Judge hitting a home run in the first inning. It would be his second out of 3 home runs across the entire weekend. And it gave Severino an early 1-0 lead. Unfortunately, Severino, his previous start, again, he took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. This game, not as sharp, not as effective. Actually, got touched up a little bit for a home run in the third. Would actually give up 3 runs in the 3rd inning and another run in the 4th, and actually put the Yankees in a 4-1 hole. The Yankees did claw back a little bit, cut the deficit to 4-3, but it was really the 7th inning for the Yankees where really had an amazing type of inning. And I'll break down each at bat. Okay, maybe the win itself was the second best win, but this inning itself, just the way it all unfolded, was probably the most exciting, I guess, inning of this season. Now it started with Coleman on the mound and Isaiah kind of Falefa at the plate, and he's just been really coming on late for the Yankees, just with the bat and the glove and on the bases and the whole 9 yards. Now he was actually down in the count 1-2, and it's a situation where you figure he'd be at a disadvantage, probably end up striking out. But Coleman just couldn't put him away. Actually worked the count to 3-2 and would finally walk to start the inning off. So being down in the hole from 1-2 to getting a walk, a great win, and fouling off a whole bunch of pitches, tiring Coleman out a little bit, which brought up DJ LeMahieu. Now LeMahieu himself, he did fall behind in the whole count 0-2. And there were a couple of borderline pitches low. I would say the Yankees got probably a break. There was one pitch that I think probably should have been a strike, but wasn't called. DJ himself fouling off some pitches, taking some tough pitches. He himself would work the count to 3-2, and he himself would walk. So now Coleman had walked the first 2 batters, and up comes Anthony Rizzo. Now Rizzo, he initially had the night off, but obviously with a right-hander up at the plate, you definitely want a left-handed bat, and of course Rizzo's been hot with the home run ball, so it totally makes sense to pinch hit him. So sweeping break ball actually hits Rizzo, who more than anyone in the Yankees, probably more than anyone in baseball, Rizzo, because he just stands over the plate so much, gets hit by the pitch. And the Yankees have bases loaded with Aaron Judge coming up, and it's probably there's no more else you would want more up in that situation than Aaron Judge. Now, funny enough with Judge, he has this big power. He figures he's going to drive the ball deep. On the second pitch, has a little bit of a check swing. Seemed like he wanted to swing, but didn't want to swing, but kind of put his wrist out a little bit. So it was almost like a perfectly, I guess you call it a swing and bunt, perfectly laid little dribbler up the first base line, which the fielders really couldn't cleanly field. The pitcher was able to run over, throw Judge out at first, but Ina Falefa was able to score from third, tying the game 4-4, and moving the runners up to second and third. So Judge actually did his job, almost as good as a sacrifice fly, moving the runners up where now the Yankees could still score another run, take the lead, again, with less than 2 outs. So up comes Josh Donaldson. Now, with Donaldson, he hit the ball right to the shortstop. The infield was playing in, tried to cut the runner over from third. And Lopez, the shortstop, he fielded the ball cleanly, but through the transfer from his glove, the arm just bobbled to the second, and just that slight hesitation gave Rizzo the opportunity just to slide in under the tag, and now the Yankees had taken a 5-4 lead. And again, you have a runner on third with less than 1 out. So now you have first and third 1 out with Stanton coming up. And of course, in that situation, Mike Matheny, you're ready behind. You're not going to let Stanton swing away. You want to try to set up the double play. And he made the right call on that one. They end up walking Stanton to load the bases. And then next up is Gleyber Torres, which, again, he got that game-winning hit against Clase in the Guardians game. Big opportunity for Gleyber, who overall so far has been having a bit of a disappointing season. And he probably hits, the hardest hit ball of the entire inning, ironically, but right to the shortstop for the easy 6-4-3 double play. So the Yankees blow a big opportunity, put a crooked number on the board. Yes, they come away with the 5-4 lead, but it was a situation where they should have put up at least 2 or 3 runs on the board instead of like come away with a 5-4 win. And if you're Royals, you're probably bummed out that you gave up the lead, but you almost breathe a sigh of relief that it could have been much worse. Now, in the 9th inning, Judge came up, his final at bat of the game, hit his 3rd home run of the weekend, so gave the Yankees an extra run. So the Yankees now, in the bottom 9th, had a 6-4 lead. And now you're just licking your chops again for that another sweep. Would have been their 3rd in a row. Bring on Chapman. Gets 2 outs early on. But then the Royals, make it a little bit interesting. Get a single, followed by a walk, and they got 2 on for Benintendi, who, it's lefty on lefty. Now, Benintendi, you might remember from the Boston Red Sox, has a high batting average, good contact hitter. Could be a situation where you still feel Chapman had the edge a little bit, but he wasn't too sharp, but was able to get Benintendi to ground out ultimately, and then the Yankees come away with the 6-4 win, and of course sweep their 3rd series in a row, and again give themselves, at least at that point, 22 games in, the best record not only in the American League but the National League as well, the best record in baseball again. So after everything, the Yankees gone through so far in the early part of the season, whether it was Cole not being effective, the offense is being being almost like very stiff early on, Gleyber not hitting, Gallo not hitting, Donaldson kind of a disappointment. All that in mind, still, coming with the best record of baseball, and it says a lot for the team, and it says why you just have a little patience versus going crazy after like the first week. So we're going to take a little break for the 7th inning stretch. Just to remind you, if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the Section 420 Talkin Yankees podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. So maybe you're a Spotify person, maybe you roll with Apple, maybe more of an iHeartRadio type of individual. Go there, search for it, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe, again, get additional content, get series wrap-ups, get little rants, maybe these things pop into my head that I just want to put out there in the universe, get to listen to it, again, get quicker updates, throughout the season, so you don't have to like wait an entire week for the new episode to come out on YouTube or on television. Again, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, go there, subscribe. Now back to the Yankees. Now, the only blemish for the Yankees during that Kansas City sweep is that in Game 2, Joey Gallo suffered a little groin tightness, had to be pulled from the game. Not a situation yet where they declared him to be on the IL, but for the Yankees, it was like kind of the only down. Other than that, again, a great sweep for the Yankees. And really, if you look at so far 2022 for the Yankees, been relatively lucky health-wise. I mean, remember the past couple of seasons, especially in April when it's cold, it always seems like a few guys go down with groins and pinky issues and all these little knick-knack injuries. Overall, the Yankees have been able to avoid that. It's just unfortunate with Gallo, because he finally hit 2 home runs in the series before that against the Orioles. Figure out he was going to get going with the bat a little bit. Now has to be shut down for a little bit, and maybe that just stunts his potential to kind of go on a bit of a tear. But again, as mentioned before, the Yankees relatively lucky, during spring and early part of the season health-wise. The only really plays to work about is some of the rehab. Obviously, you got Ben Rovette, who they got in the Donaldson IKF trade. He's kind of still rehabbing his way back. I mean, it's not something that you would depend on him. Again, last season he was a 130 hitter, so you don't see him as one of the guys. So yeah, he's coming back for an injury, but it's not someone you were counting on anyway much that. And of course, we all know Domingo Germán. He's still working his way back. You're probably not going to see him to maybe midway of the season. And of course, Zach Britton, who had the Tommy John surgery last offseason, still working his way back. You're not going to probably see him till the later part of this season, if you see him at all. But again, overall, the everyday type players that we were expecting to see on this team, they've all been relatively healthy. And again, hopefully for the Yankees to just keep that going. And it just kind of made me just think about some of the past couple of Yankees seasons. And this again, it's early part of the season, but just look at some of the former Yankees that have departed this offseason. And for example, Clint Frazier, obviously he was shut down with appendicitis with the Cubs. And Clint Frazier, just always a mystery with him. Again, ton of potential with the bat. So appendicitis, I mean, this guy can't catch a break. He runs into the wall. He has the whole concussion issue. Never recovers from that. Then supposedly has the vertigo issue. And then has something where he needs special glasses or special contacts. We never really found out what happened to this guy. Well, now he has appendicitis. So just go figure. Our friend Luke Voigt, who was shipped out to San Diego, he had to be put on the injured reserve list for a bicep tendon strain. I mean, we always had that with Luke Voigt. Again, he was a good guy, good Yankee, solid, but always getting hurt a lot, always with core issues and obliques and stuff like that. And then, of course, last but not least, Gary Sanchez, who wasn't put on the IL officially, but they did set him down for about 8 games with an abdominal strain. Again, it's just a situation where at least little knick-knack injuries that the Yankees had to deal with those type of players in years past, not having to deal with it with this 2022 season. So maybe that's a good sign. It's a breath of fresh air. And again, hopefully the Yankees can stay healthy. And if they do, again, what we've seen so far in the small sample, they should have a very good season. Now, remember, before the opening day, the Yankees' Brian Cashman had a press conference saying that they didn't come to agreement with Aaron Judge's team on a long-term contract. So after the season, Judge is going to declare free agency. And remember that Yankee deal, again, it was $213 million. Again, they were going to offer him $17 million for the arbitration for this season, and then the deal would have kicked in after that. But if you look at Aaron Judge, really came on strong in this Kansas City series, again, hitting 3 home runs. Again, got a bit of a slow start to the season, but once he got it going, he's now up to 8 home runs and 16 RBIs. All right, the batting average isn't great through 21 games, only 250, but production-wise, looks like he is on pace to hit somewhere in the 30s, maybe low 40s in home runs. So now you look back at that $213 million deal, almost looks like peanuts, and I don't know if the Yankees are definitely going to have to pony up, so I don't know. Maybe the Yankees could have made a bigger offer to try to, woo him there, wow him there. Again, I don't think he would have taken it anyway. But this goes to show that, at least, Judge kind of not letting the contract get into his head. Again, yeah, it did go off to a little bit of a slow start to the season, but it was really coming on strong. And, again, he looks set to, just have a big season. So good news for the Yankees in that regard. But, of course, if they want to retain Judge after the season, again, they're going to have to pony up. And Brian Cashman might have other things on his mind off the field. Of course, you might have heard about the unsealed letter that the Yankees try to keep sealed. So basically, it was a letter from the commissioner, Rob Manfred, to Brian Cashman, alleging that the Yankees used their video replay and communicating from the replay booth to the Yankee dugout in a scheme to steal signs from the other team. Again, allegedly this happened in 2015 and part of 2016. Now, the Yankees tried to just keep this letter sealed and just to cover up the embarrassment, but the Yankees went to court with it, lost the case, so a redacted version of the letter came out with some names crossed out. But again, the skinny of it is that the Yankees replay room, again, was communicating with the Yankees dugout and, helping to relay signs and, technically cheat. Now, well, not obviously it's not a good thing, but it seemed like this is something very common in baseball, at that time. That's why you've seen a lot of things being implemented now to limit the amount of replay, limit the amount of paper on the field, and the way catchers are now communicating. And the Yankees are kind of using the little symbol box on the catcher thing there, just trying to cut down on other teams being able to steal signs. Again, this has been going on for a while. But as for the Yankees, they actually ended up getting a fine of $100,000, and this is kind of hypocritical because they were very adamant. Again, what the Houston Astros did in 2017. And again, little things like this have been going on in baseball. Of course, you had the Red Sox with using the smart watches to steal signs, and of course we know the whole scandal with the Houston Astros and banging the garbage can, and possibly with Altuve and his little magical button on his chest. And for the Yankees to only get fined $100,000, I guess could have been worse. I mean, we saw what happened with A.J. Hinch in Houston when that whole thing came out, and they got suspended for a year. Alex Cora, who's also one of the architects of that, even though at the time he was the Boston manager, he ended up getting suspended for a year. And of course, technically, Carlos Beltran was involved a little bit that, and he was going to be the Mets manager. Of course, they have to /fire him / he quit. We don't really know the true story with that. But then Beltran lost out on his opportunity to manage the Mets. Now he's back in the Yankee booth. But again, he could have been the Mets manager. But again, once this all came out about the Houston thing, which is on a much bigger scale, of course, three people almost essentially lost their job for a year. Now, of course, Cora back with the Red Sox, AJ now with the Detroit Tigers, and of course, Carlos Beltran in the Yankee Yes booth. So a little awkward there, I guess, when he's calling these games. And our old friend Robbie Cano in the news, maybe not for the right reasons, ended up getting designated for assignment by the New York Mets. Again, the Mets traded for him a couple of seasons ago, had that big mega contract he signed with Seattle, and the Mets took it on, whatever. Actually bought them Edward Diaz, so some good for that a little bit, I don't know. But ultimately, Cano didn't work out. Remember last year, failed the PED test for the second time in his career, was banned for the entire season. Tried to give it another go this season. Now, the only good opportunity for Cano is that, of course, with the universal DH in both leagues, gave him an opportunity where he didn't have to play the field as much, but the production wasn't there. Again, just hitting under 200 with just 1 home run and 3 RBIs. And the Mets figured this, but the Mets actually do him surprisingly good. I mean, if if it wasn't for the Yankees, they might even have the best record in baseball at a particular time. But this Cano not really getting with the bat, really no room for the play. He's an old veteran, not producing much, so they decided to part ways with him. Now they're gonna have to pony up because he still has $40 million left on that contract. But I guess Steve Cohen has the money; he'd rather pay him to leave, and so now Cano is out there and available. I don't see any team running to go sign him, but it could happen. It would be interesting if he ends up. Again, a team like the Phillies maybe joins up with Girardi again and they want to stick it to the Mets. That'd be kind of ironic. But for Cano, kind of a sad situation because when he came up with the Yankees, you figured, this might be a Yankee for life, similar to Jeter, and maybe perhaps the greatest hitting second baseman in the Yankee history. But again, he took that big contract to go out to Seattle, which I don't blame him. I mean, they gave him an offer that he couldn't refuse. They kind of blew out what the Yankee offer would have been. And of course, that was the whole thing. It was with Jay-Z's group and all that stuff and all that jazz. But he did have to do what he do. But it's an unfortunate situation. Again, failing 2 PED tests. So we don't know what was the real Cano. Was he really good with the Yankees or was he taking some substances? We'll probably never find the answer to that. And if you look at Cano's stats, I mean, around 2,600 hits. So if he could have had a couple of good seasons, again, not be suspended, he's someone who possibly could have been get 3,000 hits, which is, again, something you probably not going to see too much in the future, just the way your players are babied and so forth. So not a situation you would consider him for the Hall of Fame. But, again, just look where his stats stand. 302 lifetime batting average, 2,600 hits. Again, there was a potential there for a Hall of Fame type of career. And, again, a couple of gold gloves. He was a gold glove defender at second base. But again, he just never able to put it together, and it's a career that it's almost a shame because there could have been a lot more there than we got. Then his agent said he still plans on playing. Again, maybe someone will take a shot on him. Why not? And again, with the universal DH in both leagues, I guess if someone still thinks there's something with his bat, you could just DH. You don't have to worry about him playing the field. But that's it for Cano. And for the Mets, again, as mentioned before, off to a really good start of the season themselves, and pretty much neck and neck with the Yankees. And again, if both these teams keep that up, we have a couple exciting Subway Series later on in the season. And it's good news because lately it just seems like, when the Yankees are good, the Mets are not good. And it's like, yeah, the games are exciting because it's New York, but it's even more exciting when both teams are really good. Kind of reminds you back in 1999 and 2000 when both teams were playoff caliber teams, championship caliber teams. Those Subway Series games were like almost better than the World Series. So hopefully we get that, later on this season. So while Cano's on the unemployment line, things are very good in Yankee land right now. Getting a lot of anxiety to start the season, but the offense is really clicking. Getting home runs from Judge, getting home runs from Rizzo. Again, remember last season it was like pulling teeth to score runs. Back-to-back strong performances by Garrett Cole relieves those anxieties. So hopefully the Yankees will keep this going. So if you haven't done it already, wherever you get your podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe. Do it right now.